Today we are going to make 3 different types of garden beds. I am focusing on 2 major things. One, I want to make sure that I'm using all of the byproducts from off of our sawmill. So it's all of the poles that are too small to be milled, the cutoffs from squaring up our logs, and then also I have some of our firewood rounds, the stuff that's just not quite up to the standard of being lumber. I also want to make sure that I'm assembling all of these garden beds without using any sort of fasteners. So we're not going to use screws or nails. We are just going to use this wood. The first bed that we are going to make uses these firewood rounds for the corners. So what we're gonna do on the end is we're gonna cut a groove all the way down, and then we are going to use our cutoffs and kind of put them into those grooves, kind of like slats, to form our border for the bed. So right now I'm just kind of testing out these 3 different methods. So I'm gonna make every single bed 2 feet high, and I'm gonna make it a 4x4 square. So step 1 is getting 4 of these to 2 feet tall. That's good enough. Now that these are cut, I'm gonna kind of cut a groove that goes all the way from top to bottom. I'm gonna do 2 of them so that it makes a 90-degree angle. So I'm gonna do one right here and then another one right here. I'm probably gonna go in, I'm gonna aim for between like 2 to 3 inches inset into this. So this last one I just cut 2 grooves because I was just curious, and I think I should still be able to get that out of there. One less cut saves me a little bit of time. So they're all notched and kind of roughly laid out how they're going to be. Now we're going to go over to the cutoffs and cut a bunch of 4-foot long sections, and then we will just slide them into these notches and stack them up. We've got a pretty good stack of cutoffs all cut to the 4 feet in length, so I think we are going to start fully assembling this garden bed. Our first one. To remember, we're not sitting on level ground right now. This is kind of just to get an idea of how it all goes together. I think we might only need about 4 more, maybe 5. And garden bed number 1 is finished. Now, keep in mind, it is not sitting on level ground right now. I think I'm gonna have it sitting out here for a few days, so I didn't want it to be in the way of us driving in and out, so it's kind of not quite perfectly level. So I did 3 of the sides completely different. On this first one, the bark is facing out. This one next to it, we did every other. And this is probably the one that's sitting the most level right now. So every other, I flip-flopped them. So then this backside here, all of this is like the flat sawn part is facing outside, since outside is what you're gonna see. Since this is kind of just a prototype, I wasn't too worried about making it completely level, completely flat, all of the edges being perfectly straight. If we choose to do this design, which just right off the bat, I don't think we're going to, we were gonna take a lot more care in actually building them a lot nicer, but for the time being, I wasn't gonna put that much time into it. This is option number 1, and now it's time to move on to option number 2. So with our first bed that we kind of came up with the design for, the main focus was to use cutoffs. Now, using our firewood rounds probably isn't ideal, so moving on to design number 2, it is going to be built entirely out of just the cutoffs. So on this design, we have 5 cutoffs on each side, so I went ahead and I pre-cut 20 4-foot lengths so that we can do the same thing with those. These aren't completely finished yet though. We're gonna kind of do it Lincoln log style. So I need to go through each of these cutoffs and actually make little notches in all of them first. That's what we're going for. I might make this just a little bit wider so that if I run into any boards that are a bit thicker, I won't have issues. But I'm trying to go about halfway down and then just a little notch. And I'm going to do one on that end as well, on the same side. Before I continue too much further, I think these back 2 boards I'm going to actually flip around That way we have one corner where we see all of the outside, and then we have another corner where we see the inside of the board. If we're gonna do this, we might as well see all of the options. And there is bed option number 2 from this corner where you can see all of the live edge. And then from this side where it's all the sawn. So here is our bed option number 2, using mostly cutoffs because we just simply have so many cutoffs on hand. It'd be nice to find a way to use them all. Once again, I'm not so sure we like this idea thoroughly, so we are going to go on to option number 3. Option 3 for garden beds is basically going to be the exact same thing that we just did for number 2, but we are going to use logs instead of cutoffs. I said logs, but we actually call these poles. So these are either little tiny baby trees that we cut down, or they are the tops of bigger trees that the diameter on these just are not quite big enough to mill. So this would be the fat end of this pole, and this distance, just you can't even get a 2x4 out of it, or if you really tried you could maybe get 1, and that's just not quite worth milling. So we do end up with a lot of poles, and we try to use them wherever we can as well. However, I would say for making a garden bed entirely out of poles, we just don't have nearly enough to do that. So if we do go with this option, we are going to have to go out and prioritize getting small trees and poles. With these poles, we are going to do the same thing we just did with the cutoffs. We are going to cut them into 4 feet sections, and then we are going to notch every single one and then put them together. We have our 4 piles of 5 logs to make this next garden bed. As you can see, I did go and I got a bunch of different sizes. So we have some really skinny ones and some that I think this would be the ideal size to make this. But we're just gonna see how it goes having the different sizes. Hopefully we can use these little ones too, because we're just gonna get a lot of them with all of these poles. I think we're gonna do a very similar thing to what we did for the cutoffs, and we're gonna go about 2 inches in from the end. We're gonna notch it down about halfway through the log, and then we just need to make sure that it's thick enough for any of these logs to kind of fit right in there. So I have recruited Cody to come out here and help me, and we're going to start getting all of these sections notched. I do think we are going to notch them as we're building them. The first 2 logs that actually get laid down first don't need to be notched at all, so we don't even need to waste our time. And then that way also we can make sure that the notches that we're making will fit the logs that are right below them, just because they are varying so much in size. And I think I'm going to keep up with just building them on this slant. So again, it's not going to be on solid flat ground. I think it's a good tester just to see how sturdy they are. So I think even though I have like fat ones and skinny ones, each side should probably match. You know what I mean? So like these first 2, I shouldn't have like a really big one and a really skinny one. So they're kind of even. Yeah. And then when we do these 2, we'll make sure that they're kind of even. That way it's building up the same height. Yeah. Which I think is fine. I don't think that's too much extra work with that. Yeah, they're not quite spaced properly. There we go. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. I like already know that I'm gonna like this one best. I'm really liking how this one is starting to come together. We did kind of switch it up a little bit because the logs vary so much in size. It's kind of easy to tell already that we need to do the fatter ones on the bottom, or the entire bed's gonna have to be the same size. So we kind of moved things around. We have the fattest ones down here, and then I aligned all of these up, biggest to smallest, and we'll kind of pair them up that way. Mine don't look nearly as nice as yours.
I thought mine looked terrible.
Rude. You're supposed to say, you're doing great.
You are doing great.
And the third and final bed option is finished. So here are our 3 bed options. We've got the one that has the posts with cutoffs, just cutoffs, and then some poles. Each of these 3 beds do kind of have their own pros and cons, so I figured we'd just kind of go over that really quick. So this first one with the cutoffs and the posts, one of the biggest pros is it's using the cutoffs. That was kind of my biggest goal in trying to determine a garden bed. However, it does use these posts, which could just be firewood, so it's kind of a negative that we're using some of that. Although I will note that we have plenty of firewood. We are definitely not short on that whatsoever. It's just something to note. In terms of these cutoffs, by alternating this side specifically, we actually have very, very small gaps in the siding, so that would be a plus. And then having these posts does give us kind of a rounded edge that we don't have any sharp corners poking out, and then also just kind of looks a little bit more finished. However, we do need to dig all of these posts down into the ground because that's what's going to give this one a little bit more of its stability. Moving on to bed number 2, the biggest pro about this one is that it's only using cutoffs. While that is a really big pro, this one does have the most cons compared to pros. Neither of us really like the look of it. And we also have to notch these ones, and notching just takes extra time. And then also, because we're trying to keep it really simple and just doing one notch, we are getting some pretty good sized gaps between all of the cutoffs. I will say once we get all of the dirt in this one, the stability of it will be a lot more. But for just sitting here loose as it is pretty rickety. And then our third and final garden bed option, I actually like the look of this one the best. It's really sturdy, it's really stout. So this one only uses poles though. It doesn't use any of the cutoffs. We have a ton of cutoffs. We don't necessarily have enough poles, especially since we're gonna be making a lot of garden beds, and these poles can be used for other projects too. So while it's super sturdy, maybe material-wise not the best option for us. And then also same thing with the notching of the cutoff one. We do have some larger size gaps. Now we could always take extra cutoffs and put them on the inside as we're filling this with dirt to kind of cover some of those gaps. And then the last final pro for this one is that because it's made out of these poles, it's a lot less likely to rot as fast as the cutoffs. Because they're already cut into smaller sections, they're gonna rot away a lot quicker. Whereas these poles, they're gonna kind of hold up for a little bit longer. One other pro for this bed specifically that the other ones don't have is, let's say one of these cutoffs rot away and we need to replace this one right here. All we would have to do is just take off this one side. None of these other three sides would be affected. It's just going to be the one side where we're having the issue. If we had to replace a random board in the middle of these other two, it would affect not only that wall, but it's also going to affect the walls next to it because they're all kind of interlinked with each other. So with all that in mind, which of these three beds would you lean towards? And then also, is there anything else that we didn't quite think of? Again, we want to make sure that we are using a lot of the materials that we have on hand that we aren't necessarily using for building. And we also really don't want to use anything like nails or screws, just 100% wood.